There comes a time on your spiritual journey where you begin to notice things about yourself that are quite hard to swallow, but are very, very necessary for you to be able to move on and live a life that is different than the one that you lived so far. So, two things happened to me last week that caused me to really, really question my belief system and the programs that are running through my head on autopilot in my subconscious mind. So, one of the things that happened is during one of my meditations, I uncovered something that was kind of a blind spot to me that I didn't realize about myself before. And it was related to the relationships that I was having. And the thing that I uncovered was super simple, but I was beating myself about that for the next 3 days. And the reason why is because I didn't uncover that sooner. The second thing, so much that I caused myself insomnia. I couldn't sleep. The second thing that I uncovered was I dance, as many of you know. And during our performance last week, my partner made a mistake. But because we're dancing together, we both obviously didn't look good. And although that wasn't necessarily my fault, I was again that whole night and the next day blaming myself for it and really, really angry at myself for us making that mistake. And so what I came to realize is that when it comes to the expectation that I have of myself, it is incredibly high. And it's been high my whole life. And I am my highest critic. I'm very hard on myself a lot. And I really wanted to look into that and figure like why am I doing this? Where is this coming from? So I connected with my subconscious and I connected with my inner child. And I realized that this is coming from my childhood, obviously, from the relationship that I had with my father in my family, and also the environmental implications of me living in the place where I was living and going to school where I was going to school. So my father had his favorite child, and that wasn't me, it was my sister. And he made it very clear why I was not his favorite child. And it was because I know now that I didn't know that at the time. I was different. I knew I was different, I just didn't know why. I was very artistic, I was highly empathic, I had high sensitivities about certain things. I knew when people were lying to me, including my father, and I couldn't hide that I didn't like what he was doing. He was an alcoholic. And so that was one thing. The second thing is growing up in where I was growing up, it wasn't cool to be different. I was often bullied. I didn't know why. I didn't want to run around with kids, and I knew that noises were too much to me, and those high energies, and it was all too much for me. And I would rather be with my books, and I would rather be with my music. I play the piano or paint, um, than be surrounded with those energies that were just too much for me. At that time, I had no idea I was an empath. I had no idea why I was different. I just knew I was different, and I knew I needed to step away when the energies were too much for me. So that's where it began. My belief that I wasn't good enough. My belief that they all must be right. My father must be right, and the kids in school and teachers must also be right. Um, that something is wrong with me. And that's where the belief began to create the program in my subconscious mind that I wasn't good enough. And that's where I started to morph myself into something else. I started studying a lot so that I can become good at those subjects that I wasn't good at. And that's where I started changing myself to fit into the school structure and the society so that I can be accepted in a society where, there are certain things, there's a certain way you have to look and certain things you have to do and be so that you can be accepted. And so I had high standards for myself. That is why I went into finance, and I forced myself to be the best at the thing that I was basically hating my whole life, which is math. And I became the best at it so that I can prove to myself that I am worth it and I am good enough, and show to everyone else that I can do anything and I can be the best at anything. And that's where perfectionism started building for me, and just having very, very high standards for myself and really high expectations of myself that caused me to beat myself up over things that are completely out of my control, that I'm not even guilty of, mistakes that other people make, not even me. And my whole life, in continuation, my whole adult life, I kept on running those programs to be the best at everything, to have very high expectations of myself, to learn anything I want to prove to the world that I am smart enough, I'm good enough, I can be the best at whatever I want. And I did that, of course, at the high cost of spending my life doing things I don't love, doing things that are not me, morphing myself into looking, feeling, acting, and being someone I'm not, until it all crashed into my face. So, in the past almost 8 years now, I have been on a spiritual awakening, and I have transformed my life in so many ways, relationships wise, my career, everything, to come back to myself, to come back to who I am, to be who I am. So what this taught me is that there are still some blind spots, because the past week I was still, for the two things, I was still angry at myself for something that is not me, not my fault at all. And keeping the perfectionism, pattern, and it still was showing up. There is always going to be something that you can work on. But the beauty of spiritual awakening is to catch that, to catch those things, to know that, to understand your trigger and to feel it and to question it and to be like, why am I doing this? Why am I angry at myself right now? This isn't even my fault. What is going on here? And to tune into yourself and to then realize and have an awareness of what's going on and get to the bottom of it, get to the source of it so that you can heal. This is how healing works. This is where healing happens. So I want to ask you, where? Because I know you're on my channel, because you're a highly compassionate and highly empathic person. I know you're a lot like me. Where in your life are you beating yourself up? Are you talking down to yourself? Are you blaming yourself for the things that have happened in your past that may have not even been your issues or your fault? Where are you really mean to yourself? Really putting yourself down? Where are you not loving yourself for all of the things that you do? Where are you being like really, really hard on you? Thinking that, oh, if I just do this, I will be good enough. Or if I achieve this, I will prove to the world that I'm good enough or that I am up to this task, whatever that is. Think about that and start tuning into where in your past, in your childhood, you have started believing that you may not be good enough or that something is your fault and that you being different and being unique is wrong. Because it's not. It's what makes you who you are. We are all different. The school system, the society, the culture, they want us to be all very similar because it's easier to keep it in a society, to keep the society growing as a whole. But your uniqueness and you being the different you that you are is what makes you you. And if you're not you, then you're not living your life to the highest potential that you could be living your life at. So think about that. Leave me in the comments your story. I want to know about you. And I'll see you soon. Bye.